Brother Croft, Brother Tanner is traveling, and he's traveling on Thursdays for the next 3 weeks. So I will be handling the introduction of our speakers today. We're very fortunate today to have Brother Russell Watanabe, who will be speaking to us. Brother Watanabe is a native of Hawaii. He graduated from the University of Hawaii with a degree in business management, specializing in marketing, and his entire life he has spent in one business. He's been with Watanabe Floral for his whole working life. He brings to bear three things, plus some. Three things that we'd like to have and strive to have in the people talking to you in this lecture series. One is successful entrepreneurship, somebody who's been a successful entrepreneur. Second, and equally, perhaps more importantly, somebody who is a faithful member of the church. Brother Watanabe served a mission in Japan. He also has had many positions in the church and is currently serving as a branch president for a young single adult branch. And third, we like to have people come to you who have been able to combine their business and church work to become a successful, well-rounded person. But I said he also adds another dimension. He is the president of a family business which his parents started. He has siblings in the business. He has children in the business. I served for several years on the board of directors of a family business where I was the only member of the board who was not a blood relative of the two founders, and found that to be a very challenging experience. Family businesses have an interesting dynamic going together where you have the factors of trying to run a successful business with a family, and layered in there you have cultural and church issues that have to be dealt with. So I've asked Brother Watanabe to make sure that he mentions some of the challenges of a family business. Brother Russell Watanabe, please welcome him.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here to talk a little bit about our company, Watanabe Floral, about some of the experiences we've had since 1945, being in the flower business here in Hawaii. Just by way for my edification, how many of you have been to our company in Kalihi? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, just a few. Very good, thank you. Well, I don't claim to be an expert in the field of family businesses, other than having had the opportunity of working alongside my parents and my uncle and aunt and my grandparents since I was about 6 years old. And so what I'll be sharing with you would be my perspectives, having grown up in a family business, having had the blessings and challenges of working with my dad as an adult and my mom, and working with my siblings, and now the transition of working with children, my own children, and with nieces and nephews. I was able to talk to Dr. Butler. He's the faculty advisor to the Family Business Center of Hawaii at the University of Hawaii Scheidler School of Business just a few days ago, to get some updated statistics on businesses, specifically family businesses. And he mentioned to me that only 15% of new businesses survive into the 5th year. 15%. Of that, 4.5% of original startups get to the 2nd generation. Of that, 1.8% of original startups get to the 3rd generation. And 0.5% of businesses, family businesses, get to the 4th generation. Now, normally when a family business survives the 1st generation, there's a tremendous mortality rate in the 1st generation. The real challenge of the 1st generation is to keep the business alive, to keep it successful, to keep it going. I remember many, many years growing up, the challenges that we had. In fact, my dad started a chicken farm to supplement our flower business because he had 10 mouths to feed, and you cannot eat roses and flowers, so we had a chicken farm on the side where we raised chickens. We ate the eggs, we ate the chickens, and the best ones we sold, but we had this to supplement our income. With that, I'd like to give you a quick slide show, which will kind of introduce our company to you, and then I'll proceed after that. Start with the, yeah.
Flowers are an expression of our lives, touching our senses in beautiful harmony, creating moments in time that express love, empathy, celebration, happiness, and the spirit of aloha, making beautiful memories that open the windows to our soul. Express your feelings through flowers.
And then we can just go through the slides. Okay.
Since 1945.
I'll explain. This is our company headquarters in Kalihi. Okay, next. A little bit of some of the inside of our company, some of the marketing efforts that we go through. We change our seasonal displays 5 times a year. This is our picture of our Thanksgiving display. We're not a typical flower shop per se. We're a flower business. We evolved from being commercial rose growers to become full-line wholesale florists, to adding a retail component to our business, and then finally we've entered into the mass market as well. Some of the, this is our sales floor at Valentine's. You can see some of the decorations and how we have product laid out in the store. I'll try to go through some of these things later. This is just to give you a snapshot introduction. This is our design department. We had the pleasure of having Ramsey Wharton from Morning News, Channel 7, I believe. And she did a live shot for us on Valentine's Day. We try to do more than just sell flowers. We want to give customers the wow experience when they come into our store. We like to appeal to their senses, sense of smell, touch, feel, sound, even taste. So we started bringing in karaoke for some of the major holidays, and sometimes we get guest people that show up, friends of friends, and the last couple of years, Melvin Lead would pop in on Valentine's Day to sing. Next. We also have brought in Godiva chocolates, chocolate dipped strawberries and other fruits, just to add some excitement, something a little different in the store during the holidays. Next. We also provide educational classes. This is when we had some Ikebana experts. Ikebana is the art of Japanese floral design. We brought them in to hold workshops for the general public. Also, an annual event is the Great Aloha Run, and because our store is right on the major route, they can use our store as a bathroom break. So we provide that service every year. Okay, was that the last one? I think that's it. Oh, my value statement. Okay. I'm going to be speaking a little bit about our corporate value statement and how that's so important in any organization, but we found it to be critical in our particular business. From a value statement, it gave us the platform to develop our vision statement, our mission statement, and our goals. Very quickly, I think if you can see that, our corporate value statement, let's see, if you can scroll up to the third. These are our values. We believe in the spirit of aloha, love, respect, and harmony, honesty and fairness, teamwork with a unified purpose, openness in communication and learning, providing cheerful and superior service, good leadership as an inspiration, and our ohana at work and home. And this really kind of capsulizes kinaole, Hawaiian for flawlessness, doing the right thing in the right way, at the right time, in the right place, for the right person, for the right reason, with the right feeling, and then our staff added the first time. So that's what we're dedicated to. That's the basis of our value system. And from there then, if you can scroll back to the top, we developed our vision statement, which is to be recognized as Hawaii's leading floral organization, not as a flower shop, but as an organization, synonymous with the expression of feelings through flowers. This concept is really important. We came to the understanding over the years that we were not in the flower business per se, that we're in the business of helping people express their feelings. And when we were able to understand that and help our staff to understand that, it made a tremendous difference in our approach to our products and to our service. People's feelings are tender. People come to buy our products to express their feelings of happiness, of celebration, of sympathy, of sadness, and that is a sacred trust. And we cannot mess up. You don't want to mess up someone's wedding or funeral flowers for a loved one, okay? Or someone's senior prom, or first birthday party, flowers for a first birthday party. So understanding this vision is very important. We're in the feelings business, and we always remind our staff that. In fact, one of my favorite, we have regular staff meetings, and I always ask them to, especially before a major holiday, what business are we in? And when someone says the flower business, they get the glare. No, we're in the feelings business. Okay. Second, to be known for our spirit of aloha, service excellence, quality selection, and everyday affordable prices. And third, to manage by our values and empower all our employees to be their best. Like here's that word again, values. It's important. To our organization, it's important. Our mission then falls in line with our vision and our values to prosper for the benefit of all who have a stake in our success, including our customers, employees, owners, and the community at large. To provide a nurturing and nourishing environment of continuous improvement. And lastly, very important, to develop loyal lifetime customers. That's another thing that we're always big on. When we have decisions to make, everyday decisions regarding the business, the bottom line is, is this going to help develop loyal lifetime customers? And we ask our managers to always keep that in mind. Okay. A little bit of the history of our company now. The business was started in 1945. My father was a research chemist previous to that time with the Hawaii Sugar Planters Association, but he always was independent. He wanted to be his own boss. He grew up on a truck farm. My grandfather was a truck farmer, eking out a living, growing some vegetables, a few flowers on the side, whatever he could do to support his family. When the war broke out, my parents were engaged to be married in June of 1942. If you remember your history of World War II, what happened in December of 1941? Pearl Harbor brought America into the war. My dad had just been released from his stint in the National Guard as a sergeant, and guess what happened the next day after Pearl Harbor was attacked? He didn't enlist voluntarily. He got drafted back into the Army and shipped out in 2 weeks. And so my parents' marriage had to be postponed until the end of the war. And there were many like them who had their romances put on hold. And he had enough foresight to see that when the war was over, there'd be a lot of catching up to do in the area of romances and marriages. And so he determined then that when he came back from the war, if he came back from the war, that he wasn't going to continue as a chemist, but he would start a flower business. So he saved his money, he spent his free time studying, and when he came back, he sent for rose plants and started growing roses. As I mentioned earlier, from 1945 until 1972, we were predominantly, the company was called Watanabe Roses because we were commercial rose growers. We sold to various flower shops in town, other businesses that would use our roses. We also had a side business, like I mentioned, a chicken. We had a chicken business. And that's how I grew up. It was a wonderful business, a wonderful experience. And I wanted to mention this, one of the benefits of being in a family business. I had the chance during the summers and the weekends to work side by side with both of my grandfathers, to work with an uncle, to work with two aunts, to work with my father, to work with my mother, to work with my two brothers and my three sisters. At the time, I didn't fully appreciate that, but as I matured more, and I look back now, and what a rich childhood. I consider it a wonderful blessing. Let's see. In 1974, when I entered into the business full-time upon my graduation from college, my dad and I decided that we needed to expand the business. And so we decided that in addition to growing roses, we would venture into marketing other cut flower products from other growers, both here in Hawaii and from the mainland. And so we put $500 together. I remember I had to scrape up all the money I had, $500. My dad put in $500, and we started Watanabe Floral. And I had just finished graduating from the University School of Business. I thought that I would have an indoor job. After all, I had worked in the fields all my life. The first thing my dad said was, "Okay, Russ, you run the farms." And I said, "But," he said, "no, I think you need to have the experience of running the farms." So the first 4 years of our partnership, I had the responsibility of running the nurseries. I became a farmhand. I rolled up my sleeves and planted rose plants in the ground. I fertilized them. I learned all that. I had been doing that for many years. I thought I was past that. But it was a valuable experience. I really learned to love our employees. Now I had the responsibility to hire our field workers, to manage them, to get relationships with them. And my dad, he was older, he was wiser. He took the reins on building and nurturing the wholesale business while I took over the growing end. In 1982, my parents were called on a mission to Japan. And I had been running the nurseries. By that point, I felt confident in running the nurseries. We had 2 nurseries. We had a nursery here on Oahu in Mililani, and we had a nursery on the Big Island, a greenhouse rose growing operation. We had expanded our growing. But as far as the business as a whole, I hadn't had much contact with that. My dad was running that. But in one day he said, "Okay, we have no choice. You're elevated to president." I was vice president. "You're elevated to president, and you got to come hire somebody to run the nurseries. You got to run the business." And it took me a number of years and a number of mistakes that I made, but I finally kind of settled in. But you learn from mistakes. You should learn from mistakes. And we made many mistakes. I almost ruined the company a couple of times. Thank goodness we survived and we were able to evolve. In the middle 80s, as I mentioned, in the 70s, we developed a wholesaling business. In the middle 80s, we developed a retail business. In the middle 90s, we started getting into the mass market. Another important thing that all of us have to realize who are in business, that change is always present, and you have to be prepared for change. Don't be afraid of change. You have to embrace it. If not, you're going to be left behind and eventually be one of these statistics, the companies that don't survive. we had to change. It was no longer profitable for us to remain as growers. Although that was the roots of our company, we were best known for production. We took great pride in that. It came to the point we understood where we needed to get out from being growers and producers of product, and we had to emphasize now what had become our core strength, which was marketing. And so through the years then, through the decades, we evolved from growers to becoming wholesalers, and now we're no longer growers, we're wholesalers, retailers, supplying the mass market. Okay? So today our company provides a full range of services selling to the wholesale trade. Some of our largest customers include Sam's Club, Costco, Walmart. We provide the Lays at the Polynesian Cultural Center, Foodland supermarket chain. That would be some of our mass market. We sell to Target, let's see, did I lead off? Anyway, that's the mass market division, and then we supply still retail flower shops and businesses, and then we supply the general public. They can come in and buy just cut flowers. If they want flowers for their weddings or proms or anniversaries, we provide full service in these areas. So that's a little bit about our history. I want to talk about values for a few minutes. Any family business naturally adopts the values of the founders of the business. And my parents were very good people, honest, good people. And they always understood that quality and value to our customers was so important. But you know, the values were never written down. They were implicit. Everybody knew, the employees and longtime customers knew how Ernest and Sue Watanabe would conduct business. But it was never written down. And so one thing that we needed to do as that we began to have a transition from one generation to the next, we realized that everybody would not remember or have association with my parents. My dad passed away in 2002. My mother's now 93 years old. And so we needed to put this down in writing. And so with the help of some consultants, we were able to craft our value statement, and from there then make the implicit explicit, put it down in writing, and then again we crafted our vision and mission statements from there. I can't tell you how much it has made my job easier. I remember when I first took over as president, and for the first 10 years before we put this down in writing, many vexing problems would keep me up at nights, especially having to do with loyal, faithful employees who now had reached a point where we could no longer afford, their productivity had waned, we could no longer afford to keep them in the positions and at the levels of pay that they were at, but they were not ready to retire. So how do you deal with these things? You know, we try to live the gospel, but you also have the responsibility to yourself, to your family, to those who will come after you, to run a business successfully, to keep it from going under. And so I remember 3 or 4 instances in particular where I really wrestled with this until we put it down in black and white, and it made my job so much easier. Now, the thing that goes along with the values is you cannot just be something you talk about. You have to be willing to walk the values. And many times, by being true to your values, it will cost you in the pocketbook. There are many times when we made the decision that we needed to stay true to our values, and it cost us thousands of dollars. But that's when you know whether you're really truly committed to values or not. I'll give you one example. For many years, we were open on Sunday. We needed to supply the trade with their products. They depended on us. But we felt this conflict. We know the commandments to keep the Sabbath day holy. By staying open on Sunday, we were requiring our employees to work. So we came to this compromise. We would close every Sunday except for the major holidays. Anybody know what day of the week Mother's Day falls on? Sunday. Okay. Major holidays such as for us, Memorial Day is always the Monday. It has evolved now to be a weekend business, and so Sunday is a very important day for us. A lot of parties, a lot of weddings are held on Sundays. But so we made the decision, okay, we'll close except for the major flower holidays. But that still didn't sit right with us because that wasn't in line with our values. And so we made the decision that we were going to close every Sunday, no matter what day it was. And the first year we made that decision, guess what? Valentine's Day fell on Sunday. Did our sales go down? Yes. Okay. Did we hurt in the profit area? Yes. But more importantly than that, we recognize that we are where we are today as an organization because of the blessings of the Lord. A lot of our hard work and sweat, but also by living the principles of the gospel. So we were able to make that decision without regrets. Had a hard time convincing our non-member staff, especially the management staff, and that was one of the things where we just said, you know, this is a matter of faith. Trust us on this, please. And fortunately, we got good staff. That's another important thing about values. It's important to hire people in your organization that share your values. If they don't, sooner or later, they're going to self-select out, or you're going to have to end up firing them. Skills are easier to teach than values. And so that's one thing we learned. And when we have openings and when we have to add staff, the criteria we have, many times, of course, we look at their background and their skills and their credentials. But if it's a toss-up or if it's anywhere close, the candidate who shares our values is the one who's going to get hired. Okay? Very important. I mentioned earlier that we're in the feelings business, and so our marketing approach has to do with that. In our market research, we found that our primary customer are female, 16 to 65 years old. And for many years, when my dad was running our marketing end, you know, he's a typical Japanese headstrong man, strong male. Our colors were bold and bright, black, red. Our symbol, logo was a red rose surrounded by a black circle, okay? Big bold letters, Watanabe Floral, as you see it on our building. But we thought that if our primary customers were female, 16 to 65, we needed to appeal a little bit more in the senses to them. So our colors have changed now. Look at our logo, Watanabe Floral. We've kind of softened up the type. Our rose is not red, it's peach. We have green in it. If you look at the building, the outside, can you flip back to the outside of our building? We selected a peach color for the outside of our building. See that peach color? It's to appeal to our primary market segment, the general public, when they come to our store. When you come into the store, again, you will see the interior colors, the displays. We want people to have the wow effect, like I said, so when they walk in, we want them to instantly know that they're in a flower shop by what they smell, what they see. If you can flip through, let's see. Okay, there. We put a lot of displays on the on the sales floor so people can touch and they can smell, they can appeal to those senses. Now, flowers are delicate, and shrink is a major concern for us that we have to watch. But we've always felt that it's very important for our customers, because we're in the feelings business, to be able to touch and smell and get close to the product. And so we allow them to do this. We have big reach-in refrigerators, our bulk coolers. Very few, if any, wholesalers in the country allow their customers into the bulk coolers, because if you're not trained, it's easy to damage your product. But we've always allowed that. That's something my dad insisted on. And so we allow customers anybody into our coolers where they can handle all the product, they can select. A lot of times you see people take product out and they decide, oh, I don't want this bunch, I want this one, and they shove it back into the container and you get some damage. So we try to get around that by having staff there to help teach them and coach them along the way. But that's important to us. That's something that we do. You see the displays above the refrigerators and in the store. We have my favorite display time is Thanksgiving. I've always loved the colors, the fall colors and stuff. So we deck it out with that. And Christmas time, we have a whole display of Christmas. Valentine's Day, we've got red hearts all over the place. Spring, we move into spring. We have spring flowers, a spring theme. Now we're going to be evolving into summer. So it's important, again, that we understand the marketing focus that we have. Pros and cons of a family business. Like I mentioned, some of the real benefits in working alongside my family members is that I really got to know my grandparents on a lot closer level. I associated with them. My uncles and aunts and siblings. If your business is successful, you can have a tremendous sense of pride and identity as a family, an extended family. Working for yourself and for your own organization, you have some flexibility in your schedule. The benefits stay within the organization, within the family, if you're financially successful. Unity of having to pull together. We don't always have that in American families and society today. But also there's some real challenges. When you work in a family business, it's almost impossible to separate family relationships. He's always going to be my younger brother. She's always going to be my older sister. And you carry all that baggage over into the workplace. I'm always going to be my father's son. I remember when I was 40 years old, my dad still referred to me as a young buck. Of course, I didn't see myself as a young buck, but Dad saw me, and from his perspective, I was. Okay? He was in his mid-70s. I'm in my early 40s. I'm a young buck. But you got to be able to get past that and find a way to work together for the greater good. And if you share the values, and those are made, and you understand that that's what you're coming into and you're going to be a part of, like I say, I think more than anything, being able to identify our family values, making those explicit, and then any family member coming into the business understands that this is the foundation upon which the family has operated, and this will be the foundation upon which the family business has operated and will go forward operating, then it can alleviate a lot of communication problems. Another very important point that we discovered in the family business is you cannot have family members in management positions if they're not capable, because that can lead to disaster quickly. And it's also a recognition that all family members are not the same. Although we might be raised in the same household and had many of the experiences growing up in responsibilities, we all have different talents, different levels of commitment. And so it's important to have that kind of communication and understanding. Many times in a successful family business, there's a sense of entitlement by family members. And again, that's destructive. That's very destructive to a family business in particular. We've had siblings. I've had siblings who were in the family business and left for any number of reasons. Today in our organization, we have 3 senior officers. I'm the president, but we also have a chief financial officer and a chief operation officer. They're both non-family members. We have a number of managers, and we have 2 family members among the 10 managers that we have. Okay. We found a way through good attorneys to reward other family members, their share of the inheritance outside of the family business. We were able to have my dad was wise enough to have some other family investments. And so they inherit their share of the family fortune through that end. Working in the family business in Watanabe Floral is available to them if they want to come in and be a contributing factor to the business. But they understand that if they come in, they have to work their way up. Okay? So that's how we separated it in our family. We have a different business and vehicle to handle the inheritance side, and another vehicle to handle the ongoing business side, the day-to-day family operations. I want to leave some time for questions and answers. I just have some just general advice. As mentioned, I serve as a branch president in a singles group, so I love associating with your age group. One of our former members, Ikaika Kim, is here. I'm glad to see that he's studying accounting. When I was in business school, accounting, I think, was the least favorite of my subjects. And for those of you who are business majors, you probably understand why. It's probably the most demanding in terms of time and effort and discipline. But after graduating from college, I see now that that was a very good foundation for understanding what makes a business tick. You understand the numbers, how you put the numbers together. You're better equipped to analyze and interpret your financial statements to make sound business decisions. So any word of advice I can give to you is, if you have extra credits to take and you have, electives you can take some extra accounting classes. I don't think you'll ever regret that. Communication skills are important. No matter what job you end up working in, you got to be able to express yourself verbally in a clear, concise way. You got to be able to write and put things down so that people can understand in a clear, concise way. Develop your communication skills. I learned this when I took my son to BYU. I listened to one of the presidents, I guess it's the president who was giving a welcoming address. He said that the purpose of a college education, of course, is to help us get a job. I think we all we put that as number one, to help us get a better job. But he said it's much more than that. The purpose of a college education is to get us to be able to learn to think on a higher level, to not be afraid of change, to gain confidence, to be able to think in a disciplined, organized, strategic way. And you know that most people end up changing careers 3 times during their working time. I'll give you an example. The person who serves as my right-hand man in our company, I trust him with running the business. If anything happened to me tomorrow, he would run the business. Okay? He's not a member of the church. His degree is in fine art. But he's the most intelligent guy in our business. Smart, innately smart. But after graduating with a degree in fine art, he went and he got a job at a bank. So he got financial training working at a bank. Then later he became a loan officer at a financial institution. And then he used his art background, decided that he wanted to start his own business. He decided he wanted to be a florist. He looked into either running a liquor store or a flower shop. He realized that the liquor store offered much more opportunity for wealth, but he decided that that was not his lifestyle. Values. He didn't know of our values, but he had these intrinsically, so he gravitated to flower shop. I got to know him because he was one of our customers, and I was able to watch him from a distance and work with him. And finally, when we needed a general manager, and I heard that he was interested in a change in his life, I offered the position to him. And I still remember what he asked me. He says, "Why aren't you going after an MBA? A guy with an MBA to be your general manager?" And I said, "Well, I want you. I can see what you do. I like your values." And so he's been with us since 1984. But then again, we have a guy who came to us as one of our accountants, producing our financial statements. When you think of an accountant, you normally think of somebody who is comfortable sitting in his office working with numbers all day. But Monty was the antithesis of that. Outgoing person, captain of the debate team in high school and college, just an outgoing guy. But he was an accountant. He was not comfortable. He was a CPA and an accountant. When we had a position for marketing director, he wanted that position. He applied, and after looking at all the candidates, we hired him. His accounting background, his CPA background, gives him the tools to be a tremendous marketing director for us. And he's been largely responsible for securing some of the big accounts I mentioned. Sam's Club, Costco, he was our point man in getting those accounts. Polynesian Culture Center, he's the man. All of the advertising that we do, the radio stations, the television stations, and he's able to put these together because of his background. So I guess what I'm saying is, these are examples of people in our organization who are at the senior levels of management who didn't start necessarily and have their educations in those particular fields, but they're able to grasp and benefit from the greater good of a college education, which is get us to learn to think on a higher level, to be organized in our thinking, to not be afraid of change, not be afraid of accessing information. So take it for what it's worth, just some observations. I'm 61 years old now, looking back in my life and looking back on just my experiences, some general counsel to struggling college students. With that, I'm open for any questions that you might have, things that I might have said today. Yes?
How old were you again when you started?
I remember being 6 years old, and my dad couldn't afford to hire more workers. You know, it's a struggling business. And so my older brother was 9, and we got drafted to work in the fields every Saturday and Sunday. We'd get up at 5:30 and go and harvest flowers, and after that we would dig weeds, learn how to dig weeds early. And then the one benefit of that was, as soon as we were old enough to drive, we got our driver's licenses because he needed us to deliver. So I remember getting my driver's permit at 14, and as soon as I turned 15, I got my driver's license. So that was one benefit. But we all worked in the business growing up. And like I said, though, I used to call my father Stink Daddy because I couldn't play with my friends on Saturday, you know, and during the summer months. And as we got a little older, when we got to be teenagers, he would, once a month, family home evening, he would pass out our paychecks. But it wasn't based on the number of hours you worked and the rate per hour that you had agreed with your dad. It was how successful the business was that month and how much dad could afford to pay. And so I remember during the summers, we would work 6 days a week. We'd put in 8 to 9 hours a day, and we'd get maybe $30. And boy, we were thrilled. When business started getting better, we got maybe $50 a month. But again, it taught us some wonderful lessons about life. You know? Any other questions? Yes?
What is your advice, from your experience and to us as a college student? Some of us have that kind of ambition that you have. So what is your advice to us?
Well, like I said, I think when you go through the college experience, you know, they throw so much is required of you, right? Don't you have a lot of reading to do? Are you going to remember all those facts and figures? Honestly, I don't. I remember very, very little from all the books I had to read, all of the tests I had to take, you know, cramming for all those tests, all those things. But again, the bottom line is you go through this process to teach you how to glean what's important from what you read. It teaches you how to think critically because you have to go through this whole book, maybe 1,000 pages. And I see some professors here, maybe you'll disagree with me, but my perspective. And you got to be able to take what's important of that in a short period of time. So you learn these skills, how to digest information And you learn not to be afraid of accessing information. It teaches you, it should teach us all to be able to think in an organized, disciplined way, so that when you get out into the community and you start searching for jobs, you're not afraid. And change is going to be constant. And you got to be able to embrace that. You got to be able to change careers if necessary. And if you have these innate skills on how to learn and how to apply these, you're going to be better off. Communication skills. We're always looking for people who can express themselves verbally and in writing, clearly. Okay? People skills. For those who've been on missions, what a great start you've had. Because for 2 years or 18 months, that's what you're doing. You're interacting with people. You're learning how to get them to trust you. And not just because you want to make the sale, you want to convert them. We should learn in that process that, we're all brothers and sisters applying the principles of the gospel. And the importance of integrity. There are a lot of people who want to get ahead, and so, they see their membership in the church as, okay, that's a Sunday thing, but in the workforce, Monday through Saturday, I'll do what I have to do to get ahead. Doesn't pay in the long run. Be true to your values. Values should be built on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that will bring you ultimate success and happiness in your life. There's a big difference between finding fulfillment and being able to sleep at night. Any other questions? Okay, yes.
I guess about the less productive employees that you had and the feelings of entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
How did you deal with that?
Okay, I'll share one example in particular. We built a nursery on the Big Island, a greenhouse nursery, and I didn't have any real carpentry skills and experience in building these. We put up 9 acres of greenhouses, 250,000 rose plants. Okay, I didn't know how to do it, so I had to hire people who were a little smarter than me, more experienced. And we hired this one guy who didn't. He had to leave school when he was in the 9th grade to help support his family. And he learned through the school of hard knocks. He didn't have a college education. He didn't have a high school education. Okay? He came to work for us. And after we finished building the greenhouses, he was a good handyman. We kept him on. We felt the loyalty to him. Well, his wife passed away as the years progressed. And Sonny was more than a co-worker. He became a real good friend to me. I mentioned I was running the nurseries. He was our handyman. He fixed everything. Everything that broke down, he fixed. He started to really slow down. And he said that he had pulled a muscle in his rib cage, and that was the reason. So if we were just patient with him, he could climb up on the greenhouses and fix the greenhouses, and he'll be okay. Well, we found out that he had cancer. But Sonny was not, I guess, maybe it's pride, maybe it's the insecurity of not having a college education. Maybe I hadn't convinced him over the years of our values, but he was not forthright in telling us that he had terminal cancer. And as we kept him on for a couple years, he got to the point where he had really slowed down. And so I made the decision, after meeting with our accountants and members of the board, that we had to make a change. So we released him as our head maintenance guy. We cut his hours. And that's one of the things I struggled with. That took out his last, our company was like his family after his wife died. And he lost his will to fight and to live after that. And he died about 6 months later. And I remember at the funeral just making a promise to myself that I would live by values, and if it had cost us a little bit, I could have preserved his dignity and helped him through this process, because his family was the company, and I cut the legs out of that to save the company a few dollars for 6 months. Fortunately, we're in a position in our company where we could afford to have kept him, but we didn't. And so I know that he wasn't a member of the church, but I know that one of the first people I'm going to go to and apologize when I see him on the other side is Sonny. Okay?
But if you couldn't keep up with the demand, would you have added a person? Would he have been a co?
Let me share something in answer to that question. We just made the difficult decision to close one of our main operations on the Big Island. Okay? And I brought personal friends over from Connecticut. They relocated to Hawaii about 7 years ago to run our nursery. He's a very experienced commercial rose grower, and his wife ran their flower shop. Their business closed. She's originally from Hawaii. We were friends for many years. Every time they came to Hawaii for vacation, he would always say, hey, if opportunities presented themselves, I'd love to come work for you. So he did. So we brought him over, and I said, Richard, we're probably, if things continue, we're going to close our rose growing operation in 3 years. See what you can do to keep it going. But I promised him that if we did close the operation, that we would expand our marketing on the Big Island and give him an opportunity to develop that. Well, true to form, we ended up closing our rose growing operation in 2008, and we proceeded to try to expand our marketing, and we gave them the responsibility, the opportunities to run it. Well, the economy's been tough. 2008, 2009, 2010, we lost a ton of money in those 3 years, living our values and keeping my promises to him. We came to the decision that we could not continue. Urging from the bank, our bankers, they said, what are you going to do about this division that's losing money for you every year? Well, we came to the conclusion that we had to close the Big Island operation, which meant that my good friends would be out of a job. Husband and wife both work for us. They're living in our company house there, okay? So we worked it out so that they could buy our business. We worked it out with them so they wanted to continue the business. They can operate it as a husband and wife team, hiring maybe 1 or 2 employees, scale it down a little bit. But they didn't have the overhead of a company our size would have. So that's how we worked it out. We worked out the terms so that they could afford to take it over. And they're going to take over on May 1st. So again, that's how we chose to handle that. I know there was a question back there too. Was there a question? Okay. What I'd like to do is just show you the slide of our ad one more time with what I told you about. We're in the feelings business. We appeal to the senses, the feeling of ohana and values. Maybe you can pick up some of those themes from the short 30-second ad, and that kind of will summarize my presentation today.
Flowers are an expression of our lives, touching our senses in beautiful harmony, creating moments in
It's my
time
parents.
that express love, empathy, celebration, happiness, and the spirit of aloha, making beautiful memories that open the windows to our soul. Express your feelings through flowers. Watanabe Floral, serving Hawaii's families since 1945.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything you want to say, Trevor, about everybody understands what they're supposed to do and writing up, submitting?
Yeah, there were actually 35 original people that signed up for the class, and then last week it jumped to 77, and I know there's quite a few that continue to add. I believe it's till tomorrow is as late as you can add the class. If you have friends or family that still want to join, please let them know that tomorrow is going to be the last day. We're still going to add it. And then the video, if you've just added the class, the video of Natalie Norton last week, hopefully will be up no later than Friday if you missed that. Other than that,
There's going to be a Black Friday?
yeah.